Let's bring in a panel of MPs to debate. The National Revenue Parliamentary Secretary, Peter Fragikakos, is here. The Deputy Finance Critic, Adam Chambers, is here for the Conservatives, and the NDP Whip, Rachel Blaney, is here. Mr. Fragikakos, let me start with you. Why did your government dress up a speech as a, quote, new affordability plan? You know there was literally nothing new in terms of the ideas. I know some of the money's going to flow, but we knew about it in the last budget. Are we to assume that nothing economically has happened? The war in Ukraine, the inflation rates are higher. Nothing's changed that your government is not already can do in the last budget. Is that what we're to assume?
Canadians are having a very difficult time right now. We recognize that. Fuel prices are higher. Food prices are higher. And Canadians need the government to continue to be there for them, just like it was during the pandemic, and we remain steadfast in that commitment. The question is how exactly to proceed. And you've reviewed the suite of measures that were announced today in the Finance Minister's speech. To your point, these are measures that had been announced but not yet enacted. They are now going to be enacted. Canadians will be able to see the benefit.
But, sir, I understand that the suite of measures, and we did cover it extensively during the budget. I guess my point is, today there's a big speech saying this is a new affordability plan, but it's not new. Like, we did see all this stuff in the budget. It was a review. And my question to your government is, given the new pressures on inflation, it's higher than your government thought, new disruptions because of the war in Ukraine, on pressures on food, higher gas prices than anybody imagined, an interest rate hike from the Fed in the United States of 75 basis points. You still feel your government is comfortable that the plan you had months ago is still good enough for today?
Based on where we are right now, Evan, I think that the measures do make sense. We have a historically low rate of unemployment at 5.1%. Canada has recovered 117% of the jobs that it lost when the pandemic began. We are in a very good position in terms of our debt to GDP ratio. However, we do realize the need to act. The measures announced today that will be enacted, as I say, have the best chance at impacting Canadians directly and quickly.
Okay, well, this week we saw a Manulife survey indicating 1 in 4 homeowners might have to sell their house if interest rates go up. Mr. Chambers, what did you make of the plan today? Did they miss an opportunity, or is this actually, in their last budget, were they kind of ready and prepared? What's your sense of this?
Well, if we think back to the budget, Evan, in April, this was a time when the government was still telling Canadians not to worry about inflation. And now today, we're being told that the measures that they brought in when they told Canadians not to worry about inflation are actually going to help with inflation. Now, some of these measures are indeed benefits to Canadians that are indexed to inflation, so they were going to go up anyway. But some of them don't actually kick in until next year. And that's why Conservatives have been calling for immediate relief for Canadians in the form of, tax holidays or rebates. You take gasoline as an example. About 60 cents a liter of gasoline goes to taxes of various levels of government. That is immediate relief that could be provided to Canadians. By the way, gasoline and energy prices are one of the significant drivers of inflation. So what we're saying is, look, you need to realize that facts on the ground have changed and show a little bit of humility to say, okay, maybe we need to course correct here. It's okay for the government to say, listen, we underestimated inflation like other governments around the world have. Just last week, President Biden wrote a letter to the American people saying, look, we were behind the curve. We have a plan. But this plan from the government is actually nothing new. It's the same playbook from a couple months ago.
Mr. Fragikakos, I know you want to respond, but GST rebate, cutting the gas tax, why not give Canadians a break now, a new break, not something that you'd already planned months ago?
The main benefits are indexed to inflation. That is an important point to recognize. And
it's
I would
$7.
say let's be serious about this $7 figure. It came up in question period today. The Canada Workers Benefit for an average family or for an average Canadian family, in fact, of a working family, it will see up to $2,400. Their fees will be reduced by 50%. Their fees will be reduced by 50%. The plan of the NDP is to increase taxes on oil and gas companies, something that they haven't even consulted the provinces on. I wonder how Rachel Notley, for example, feels about that. To
Other
Mr.
countries
Chambers'
are doing
point,
it. It's a windfall tax. They're making
Mr.
extreme
Chambers,
profits right now while Canadians cannot afford to pay for their food. It's
to
about
Mr.
who you
Chambers'
value,
point,
everyday Canadians, or do you value people who are making billions of dollars in profit?
if I can just finish, to Mr. Chambers' point. Sure. To Mr. Chambers' point regarding the things, taking off tax in terms of gasoline, it doesn't really do much because we don't know where gas prices will go. The war in Ukraine continues to rage on.
Well, I mean, I think you'll have to try to explain to Canadians why they're paying 60 cents a litre to various levels of government in taxes, and that if a government reduces those taxes, that companies won't all of a sudden pass on that tax break. I mean, that's a pretty serious kind of accusation to say that there'll be price fixing in the Canadian oil and gas and fuel markets, that Canadians won't see that break. I mean, we've seen other jurisdictions around the world actually do this successfully. Canadians are very highly taxed, and we even tax on tax. We put HST on top of the other taxes already. So I think Canadians fundamentally would recognize and believe if governments reduce taxes on gasoline, that would be passed through. And I think that's an immediate benefit that can be passed on to Canadians starting tomorrow, if the government wishes to kind of revisit its plan.
It's so volatile, though, Adam. You can't look at it that way. Gas prices are so volatile, you can't look at it that way.